welcome to another broadcast of The Soul of the Everyman on the Artist First Radio Network. All past broadcasts are podcasts. You can find them at artistfirst.com. We welcome your email questions and comments, dj@artistfirst.com. Here they are, Michael and Margaret Lyons.
And thank you very much, Z-Man. And I am Michael Lyons.
And I'm Margaret.
And welcome to The Soul of the Everyman, the first edition of the new year.
This is true, the first show.
This is the first show, and it will be silkier than the last show.
All righty then.
Because we've installed the silky option. And tonight we're going to bring back one of our faves from the past. Everyone's familiar with Marcus Aurelius and with his bud there.
Seneca the Elder.
Seneca the Elder, who invented apple juice. He did.
Dear.
That's why we have that awesome...
Oh, my goodness.
No? Well, he could have. And Seneca the Elder and Marcus Aurelius and a whole bunch of their really depressed friends got together and made the Stoic Society.
This is true.
I don't know. Were they depressed?
I don't think they were depressed. They were just
Stoic.
Mm-hmm.
They were
About
stoic.
everything.
They were manly men.
This was the definition of man.
But Stoicism is an interesting philosophy, and we won't go into it tonight, but we're going to talk about a quote from our friend Seneca, the inventor of apple juice. And it really has to do, I think, at this time of year, it's an excellent thing to start the year off with, which is happiness, or rather the fact that in order to... People find a lot of excuses to be unhappy, Margaret.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the excuses they have is that just, it's not what I want it to be. I'm making all these resolutions. I'm too fat. I'm too old. I'm too bald. I don't have this lover or that thing or this car or whatever it is. And in essence, they make themselves a litany of what isn't right, what isn't good, and never kind of flip it around. And so I'm going to read the quote, and then we're going to kind of go into what Seneca and the Stoics were talking about. Because
right.
from their point of view, it was flipping that around, and a lot of their philosophy was that it was like taking the contrarian or the opposite view of something, and then developing that. So anyway, let me just run into this, and then we'll go from that point. This is Seneca now, so it'll be much more coherent. Unhappy is the man, though he rule the world, who doesn't consider himself supremely blessed. In order to consider himself supremely blessed, he must deeply understand that things could be much worse, but aren't. To not do that is to always be less happy than he could be. Our friend Seneca.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's the nub of it, isn't it?
Well, I find it interesting because you can take a couple of those words a little bit differently than what he was, or you can interpret it differently. Maybe it's the best way to do it. Just the phrase, who doesn't consider himself supremely blessed. Now, it seems like a quantitative statement that, you're blessed, but by lots of stuff. But the supremely, I would interpret that as blessed by God or a higher power.
As in, the Supreme is blessing you.
Yes. Yes. I probably would have capitalized that S to indicate that it's a blessing outside of what man is capable of.
Yeah.
Because he starts it with, you're ruling the world, which is usually considered the absolute that you can get on the human plane, is you're ruling the world.
Where I am in charge.
Right. But if you consider yourself, there's always something else wrong going on. I'm not blessed, as da-da-da-da-da, and the mind starts going down that path of all the things that could possibly go wrong. You can see how the mindset will alter your internal state. Instead of being, okay, I'm here, I'm ruling the world. So,
isn't this also, Margaret? I mean, Seneca kind of has an archaic phrasing here, but what I would say is, he says, "Unhappy is the man," and really take out "though he rule the world," because that's just a parenthetical phrase. Unhappy is the man who doesn't consider himself supremely blessed.
right.
And in that way, what he's really saying is that no matter how blessed others may see you as, or you may actually be, you can always be unhappy.
Yes.
And from that, you can infer that unhappiness or happiness is a choice.
Yes.
You literally choose to be unhappy. So even in the most luxuriant and most wonderful, most rule the world circumstances. I'm reminded of the royal family and their current contretemps. Not that matters, but here you are, where you're basically a prince or a princess, and you've got millions and billions, and everybody calls you this and that and defers to you, and yet you can be supremely unhappy, or not to use the supremely, just you can still consider yourself unhappy,
Right.
because none of the external matters.
Well, in that mindset, you're constantly looking for the thing that will always go wrong, or how it could be better,
What I don't have.
instead of holding to the truth of the matter is you are blessed as you are living and breathing in this moment, because that is a value judgment on what life is to you. So when you go back to how it could be better, the feel or the thought is, it will be better if this happens, instead of this moment. I am alive. I am blessed. I am good.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it, was it maybe a couple weeks back, where Tolle was saying that, in essence, to look not at the present moment, but always to the future, or always to that which is not now, and thereby steal unhappiness. Bring your awareness away from now, and into, well, it could always be this, or I don't have that, or if only this had happened, or if only that had happened, I would be in this situation or that situation. And this is what Seneca is saying. Unhappy is the man, though from the external he has everything, who doesn't consider himself. So what you're saying is, he considered this person, he or she, considers themselves to be unhappy, considers themselves not to be blessed, that it isn't all wonderful.
Right. Supremely blessed is, again, the going phrase. Understanding that, life is not something that you produced. Life is there, that you're living.
Right. Your presence, your energy, your divine spark is not yours per se in that regard. It is you as an individual.
It's something that you're participating in.
Yes.
And by that participation, you're defining your particular expression of soul. But you can't say that you produced it on your own. That's the interesting thing. People say, well, it's my life, not understanding that the whole source of it is not really coming from you. I'd equate it to something really ridiculous, like a vacuum cleaner that says, okay, this is my body. I can do this and I can function, but unless it's plugged up to a source, it can't function. There is no life.
Yeah, I mean, as a vacuum cleaner, all you really can do is suck.
Well, you just sit there. When you've got any current running through you, then you can suck.
So the capturing of your happiness, or the consideration of your happiness, is in the next line here from Seneca, in the sense that he's restating what we talked about, maybe that's been maybe more eloquently stated in other ways by other folks, but I think if you tease this apart, it's really the same thing, in that he says, in order to consider himself supremely blessed, he must deeply understand that things could be much worse, but aren't. And that's kind of the central thing that you internalize, let's say, even in the ego state, and even better in presence, is that your current situation, what's happening around you, perhaps what you feel, what you think, what you're being accused of, what you're having to deal with, all of those things. If you sit in the temporal and in the ephemeral and in the ego state, you're saying, "Oh, woe is me! Why is this happening to me? I should be this. I should be that." So you gather all this unhappiness and all this negative energy. But if you go a little deeper, the first part of that we talked about in the past is, why not you? You're not that special. It could happen to anyone. And then if you go just a little bit deeper, which is what Seneca's talking about here, you can say to yourself, it could always be worse. There are always, even when we were in Sloan Kettering, in the depths of the cancer wards, we came to understand that there were always worse situations, that where you were, even though you might have been going through a bad time, you shouldn't compare it to what could be, because you say, well, it could be better. And then you, deeply in Seneca's day, it could be worse, and understanding that your current situation could always be better, and it could always be worse, means that the situation shouldn't control your happiness.
Right. Well, if you accept the fact that you have very little control, first of all, and you're not fazed by the fact that you have very little control. And that's a big one, truth be told, because people want to be in control. But even if they're in control, they say they're in control, what are you actually in control of? General situation is out of your hands, especially on a cancer ward. And the options they give you are possible treatments, but there is no certainty in any of it. So what are you actually in control of?
Exactly. And that's what I think he means by the deep understanding, is that, if you're somebody who's been given control of the world, or you're a conquering hero, and you feel like you're on the top, on the pinnacle, you're the best of the best of the best, you feel like, you mentioned this earlier, you feel like you're in control. You feel like you're invincible. And yet that may make you feel happy. But then when things don't go your way, or from that, even from that state, you say, well, I could be this, it could be that, oh, if only this, oh, if only that, I still feel unhappy. The deep understanding that it not only could always be worse, but that you never really had control, even when you thought you did. Even when you thought you were the conquering hero, you have to understand that at a deep sense, this is a passing thing. It's the moment of now, but it is not you. Because identifying with this, I am the ruler of the world, is instantly moving into, well, but I'm not the ruler of the universe. There's always something more.
Right, and then you're always chasing after that bigger thing because you want to feel in control of everything. And that is more than a little absurd when you think that your ego is in control of everything. Like, you can't even remember what you had for breakfast. What do you mean you're in control of everything?
You're right, I can't remember what I had for breakfast. I don't think I had breakfast. Well, and it's profound, and it doesn't sound profound. Why is it profound? Because that deep understanding of things could be much worse is something people don't want to think about. And why? Because I think, Margaret, they kind of say to themselves, well, if I think about how it could be, it could be much worse, maybe it will get worse. I want to think how it could be better all the time, or how it could be better all the time, and say, well, this is the worst situation. I don't have everything I want. I don't have all the money I need. And people are annoying, and people are annoying.
That's a tough one.
Let's not get started on that. People are terrible. They're really the worst.
That's a tough one to have to resolve.
We might have to have a whole new topic about how annoying people are.
Well, yeah, it's a given.
But you know what? We're here's the presence. We're all annoying. Every one of us is annoying to other people. And if you think that everyone's annoying to you and that you're the most wonderful thing ever, that's a complete unconscious ego state. The ego is always right. Everyone else is wrong. Everything that you want is what should happen. Everything that anybody else wants is what shouldn't happen. This is the nub of the ego state, and really that first statement, unhappy, comes from the ego that says, why isn't everyone, this is Lucy, right? Somebody's not doing their job. I'm not happy.
Right. My happiness is somebody else's responsibility. That's what that is.
And if I'm unhappy, it's someone else's fault.
Right. Very funny, but very, that's the default process that people go through. It's like, well, I'm unhappy, and it's got to be somebody else's fault.
Right. And then, but yet, as you said a couple of times, if you learn through, in essence, it's the discipline, and the Stoics were all about discipline too. So.
Oh my, yes.
So, but the discipline to say to yourself that you are not special. And that's hard right away. What do you mean I'm not special? I'm the super top secret snowflake. Yes, but you're not special. You're just another snowflake, unique, completely individual, all your own. But every snowflake can get melted. Every snowflake can get blown around. Every snowflake can land in a nice soft place. We all are equal in the fact that we can't control one thing ever, which is truly outcome. You can decide to do something, and then the universe will happen in the next moment. And by what I mean by the universe will happen is you may intend to do one thing and something else happens. You may have a plan and the plan goes awry. In fact, we're all familiar, right? So that whole idea of I'm a super top secret snowflake gets conflated with, well, everybody should want to make me happy. But no, we're all in that state. So the deep understanding is we're none of us are any more special than any other person. We're all very special, but we're equally special. And none of us can control outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
And the Buddhists are very good about that. They, it's the whole idea of giving up the expectation of outcome. You have the moment, but you don't know what's going to happen next. You have an action, but you don't know what the results are going to be. You think you do. You're saying, well, I want to do this, and I'm going to get that. But the universe is not like that.
Well, it's something that I feel that children should be allowed to explore. Because that's usually the best way to learn about outcomes. When you give them decisions or the opportunity to make decisions, and then just allow it to play out, making sure, of course, that they're not going to be seriously hurt, but they can see that it didn't work out the way they wanted. And usually the response is, they're angry or they start throwing things like, it didn't work out the way I wanted, it's not so easy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But that is part of the learning process. So to be able to stop for an instant and allow them to see that, okay, take a breath, let's bring you back down to a calm place, and let's talk about it. How do you feel? What would you have liked to happen? And what actually did happen? Is it something that we can try to fix? Did you break something? Can we fix it? Or is it something that someone said to you? Can we learn how to open a dialogue with this other person? It's fascinating, but that kind of tool set, be able to give anyone, is a valuable thing, because more than half of the frustration that rises is because you feel like you don't have a voice. And you can have a voice. You do have a voice. But again, you need to feel safe enough to vocalize what you're actually feeling or thinking.
There's so much in there. I love that. The first thing that you said, which was, in essence, letting them have space. Okay, so to begin, children are a wonderful example of this because they're right up front. Mm-hmm. They're not censoring themselves. So this is the opportunity to learn. You try something. I'm going to build a tower. The tower falls and breaks. And immediately there's a sense of loss and a sense of sort of, I wanted it didn't come out. So my outcome didn't happen. Sadness or anger, emotions rise up. And that's the teachable moment, right? That's when you have to say, okay, you feel sad about this. Allow it to come up. Allow it to have its space. Allow the anger or the disappointment or the frustration to have its space. But realize that's not from where we should act. Let it come in. Let it experience. It's part of the experience. You wanted to do X. The outcome wasn't what you wanted. You feel bad about it. But to identify with you've said this before, and especially with the kids, I am angry or I am sad, makes the ego stronger. It makes them feel like, okay, I don't want to be angry. I don't want to be sad. So I'm going to do something. Right now, I'm going to be the ego. I'm going to make sure that no one ever makes me sad, that it's somebody's fault. Instead, give them the space. Say, you were saying, talk to them. So you feel. How do you feel? I feel sad. I feel angry. Okay, let's just feel that. Let's get into that. Let it come up as emotions do, rise up, and then that energy will kind of fill a space, and then it will start to ebb, and you'll come back down. And then as you come back down, now is the opportunity to say, okay, you wanted that to be different, didn't you? Mm-hmm. And can we try again? Can we fix it? This form of teaching is so essential at that age because you'll bring it forward. Because we all know adults who don't have these skills.
Yes. How are you feeling? Oh, I wanted da-da-da. And it's every reason under the sun, but it's like...
Right, and it's somebody else's fault.
Well, you just kind of, especially when you're dealing with this, I mean, the children will just cry, okay? Adults are not allowed to just cry when something falls. They probably would feel much better.
Feel like it.
Yeah, they probably would feel much better if they just cried for a minute and let it out and say, okay. So, to do that, though, you need to have a space that you feel safe enough to express that. Because the other problem is, of course, when you're older, people want to mock you or take advantage of you because you're feeling a certain way.
Right, and to the extent that you lose control because you haven't given your emotions space, learned how to accept that you feel this way, learn to become friends, like the little monk was, friends with your fear, friends with your anger, friends with your disappointment, and understand that outcomes are just not in your control, and they might make you feel sad or angry or whatever, fearful, not safe. And then once you understand that this is normal, natural, every snowflake, all of us unique snowflakes feel exactly the same way. We're all disappointed when something we really wanted doesn't come true. We lose the game, or we, something breaks, or we don't get what we wanted for this gift or that gift. And you learn that, these things, for a moment or two, you feel bad. You may feel sad. You may feel angry. Give that its space. Become friends with it. Understand it. And then say, nobody can control that. Everybody loses once in a while. Everybody wins once in a while.
The old everybody can't win and everybody can't lose.
Right. Not everyone can have the purple chair.
Yep.
Sharing, and really the real key is that we're all in this same situation, and that we're all at the basic level supremely blessed. And that although we may feel bad about a certain situation, whatever it may be, it could always be worse. It could always be better. We can always try again, or apologize, or dialogue. And then you lift yourself out of this ego trap of, I want it this way, and it's somebody else's fault, and they're going to have to make it right. Because we've all heard those words from people. We've even thought those words ourselves at one occasion or another. And you lose consciousness. You lose presence at that point.
This is true.
I've lost consciousness again. What I've lost is the thread of the fact that we're at the half-hour mark. But I'll tell you what, let's be happy about that. And let's go back to the studio, and we'll take a little break, and we'll come back on the other side, and we'll talk more about apple juice.
Rick Riordan fans, love mythology with plenty of action and humor? Destroyer's Blood is for you. The new fantasy novel by award-winning author Michael Lines is book 1 of the adventures of Deucalion, the Blood series. Follow Dev and his magic sword Betrayer as they are suddenly attacked and forced to return to Olympus to fight in a war they want no part in. The world of men and gods is about to be destroyed by Zeus's ancient foe, and only Dev and Trey can stop him. The conflict never stops, and the amazing twist will have you on the edge of your seat. Act now while the ebook is on sale for only 99 cents. Destroyer's Blood is available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere. And while you're there, get the free prequel, It's in the Blood, available for a limited time.
The wait is over. First Blood, Book 2 of the Blood series is out. Your favorite bad boy thief Dev is back, and the beautiful and deadly Trey is right there with him. She is sharp, sexy, and full of surprises. Their adventures continue as a new power arises to threaten the world. The heart of creation is under attack, and time is definitely not on their side as they battle against their enemies' undead hordes. Can they unlock the hidden power that can defeat him, or will his forces draw first blood? Get all 3 installments in the series. Book 0, It's in the Blood. Book 1, Destroyer's Blood, and the new release, Book 2, First Blood, today. Available in ebook and paperback format on Amazon, Kobo, Apple, and most other fine e-tailers. The Fat Man Gets Out of Bed is the latest book from Michael Lyons, the award-winning author of There is a Reaper. Featuring 13 original stories, this wide-ranging collection has everything. Forbidden love, gods versus demigods, weird invading aliens, sexy seductive artificial intelligence, and unusual passion between the living and the dead. All set amidst fantastic worlds of pain and loss and boundless joy. From the sublime to the macabre to the bittersweet, The Fat Man Gets Out of Bed will leave you breathless with laughter, brimming with tears, trembling with suspense. Available now on Amazon.com, Google Play, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere.
Moonstones and murder. Real murderers need a heart of stone. Meet Maggie and Mike Heartstone, parents of twin boys, entrepreneurs, and now empty nesters. Mike is retired, not by choice, from his position as chief of police in the picturesque resort town of Hamilton. And now his wife Maggie and her shop, the Cozy Crystal, are their only source of income. When a mysterious killing interrupts Hamilton's famous Springfield Park rock show, the townsfolk, the Cozy Crystal, and their lives are rocked to the core. Can Mike and Maggie figure out who is behind the murderous deeds before the town comes crashing down around them? A touch of romance, a little mayhem, and a whole lot of suspense, along with plenty of comedy and thrills galore. Get your crystal magnifying glass out. It's time for some moonstones and murder. Available on Amazon, Apple, Kobo, and other fine e-tailers in ebook and paperback. Out soon on Audible. Get your copy today.
There is a Reaper is the story of 5-year-old Christopher Aaron and his life-changing struggle with leukemia. Winner of both the Indie Bragg Medallion as well as the reader's favorite silver medal for memoir, There is a Reaper has more than 100 Amazon book reviews and a 5-star rating. It has been described as life-changing, spiritual, a must-read. Just released on Audible and iTunes, this memoir is also available in paperback and on Amazon Kindle for only 99 cents. Get your copy of this life-changing memoir today.
Hi, this is Hannah Ruth from the band Wild Hum. Check out our new Americana Soul CD, Wild Hum, at our website, wildhummusic.com. And you are listening to the Artist First Radio Network. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. on the soul of the everyman, the first broadcast for 2023. All past shows can be found as archives on artistfirst.com. Back to Michael and Margaret Lyons.
And thank you very much, man. Yes, it is the first show of 2023. And we are kind of using this show to kind of kick off this new year and maybe set an intention, maybe set a bit of a direction here in the sense that if we look at what Seneca said, we're talking about Seneca the Elder, who was the inventor of apple juice. He literally is talking about if you distill what he is really talking about here, he's really saying that happiness is something which is completely your own happiness. Individual happiness is completely within your control. The thing that is not within your control is outcome. And what people tend to do, Margaret, is they tend to tie their happiness to outcomes. And so that they feel as though they can never be happy because it's never entirely perfect.
Right.
And so they go on these extended quests for identity, or they go on these extended quests for the bucket list, or the perfect this, or the perfect sunset, or all this stuff which consumes their lives and really makes it so they're never living in the moment. They're always living in the, it could be better, or only if only this had happened.
Right.
And you can steal unhappiness out of that. Every moment of your life is an unhappy moment.
Well, if you're living through a construct or a certain type of glasses, if you would, every time you look at something, it's got to be this way. I'm only happy. This is the qualifier in your own head. You make this decision. Well, I'm only happy if my pink glasses are on. And, you're looking at it going, why are you choosing that? Is the experience of what is so overwhelming for you, so scary? Why are you qualifying everything? What is at the root of this? That you made these choices, that I can only do it this particular way. And to be honest with yourself about this choice, you made the choice. Usually it's a reaction to an event that had happened, and that event had an outcome you were not happy with. So in your head, you're going, I don't want to go through that again. How can I prevent this? All right. Not taking into account that you may never have had the ability to control it all. And that's a scary thing for most people. An example would be going back to our experience with Christopher. When he had been ill, you take him to his pediatrician. The pediatrician's looking at him going, okay, I'm thinking it's just another cold for that time of the year. They went back to school. He's exposed to all the other kids. But his blood test came back, and it turned out his white count was severely low. And the doctor understood that this is not normal. This is not a normal range. So we got sent to an oncologist for outcomes, tests, and biopsies. To make a long story short, he was diagnosed with a leukemia, a white blood cancer. And one of the doctors explained to me that, when he would have those cold symptoms where he would be bringing up sputum or phlegm, that was actually because there was an accumulation of white blood cells in his lungs that were cancerous. And he was actually bringing them up to get rid of them. Now, I don't care how diligent you are as a mother, that outcome, that possibility would never cross your mind.
Right.
That this is cancer. He's bringing up phlegm. It's got to be cancer. No. And to make a long story short, his particular type of cancer was not something that we could control at all. It was so blinking rare that he was the 31st person to be diagnosed with this particular disease in the entire world in the past 10 years.
Right.
So how rare are we talking? The fact that he got it meant that the whole of the eastern seaboard was safe. No one else was going to get this disease. Millions of people. Your mind cannot wrap its head around those possibilities. So, to survive, you had to reside in a point of knowing that you were in God's hands, and you could not comprehend this. This is so far out of your wheelhouse and what you manage that you needed to be there for him and not indulge yourself in crying and lament because it's out of your control. Everything was moving so fast. You needed to be present in that moment because those were the only moments you were going to have with him.
You know, I mean, to go to what you said, the whole idea of, okay, when you see some situation, as you said, when somebody is coughing and bringing up a little phlegm, to put yourself into the state where you say, well, that must be cancer, is insane. Everyone would say, no, what are you, crazy? It's never a cancer. It's always a cold. But both those statements are wrong in different ways. You can't assume that everything is the worst outcome possible. The worst possible situation. But nor can you, and this is what people do most of the time, is assume that it's not. That we understand this. It has to be a cold. It's always a cold. It's 100% of the time a cold. Because that's not true. One time in 30 million, it's not a cold. You can't live in either reality, or rather, you can't tie your happiness to either set of outcomes. What you have to learn, and this is what Seneca is talking about and what Tolle's talking about, is that in presence, in this particular moment, you have to understand that you are supremely blessed.
Yes.
You have to be happy. You have to not tie your happiness to outcomes. But the deep understanding is that any outcome is possible, that, as we say on the Soul of Everyman at least once a year, no one gets off the planet alive, and your life is however long it's going to be. And what Margaret just said, you have to live in this moment because you don't know what the next moment's going to bring. You don't know how many moments you've got left. And it could be that you say, well, maybe I'll live to be 150. Why should I bother? Maybe you won't. But understanding that it doesn't matter whether you live to be 150 or you die tomorrow if you have the present moment divorced from outcome and entirely present, you will be happy. You won't be able to avoid happiness. Happiness will descend upon you.
Oh, I would describe it more of being in a state of joy.
Yes, this is the truth.
Okay, it's joy of living descends upon you, regardless of the situation, because you realize in that moment you are sharing this experience with someone you love. And the experience may not always be pleasant, but you're together and supporting each other or communicating, but sharing. And the precious moment, there are no words in English to communicate how deep and how high and how vast the heart-to-heart communication, the heart-to-heart melding going through this actually is. We must experience this in order to understand. People would like to project that, oh yes, I know what that is, but the appreciation of the moment where you're together, because unfortunately we have the experience of what it means not to be together. And that contrast is vast. It's deep. It's a chasm I cannot cross yet.
And being in that state of presence and in that state of the moment of now, you're right. It is an inescapable being state of joy. And then people will say, but you know, there's pestilence and war and terrible things and you have bills and yeah. All of us do. Every one of us that's incarnate in this place, which is a place to come and learn, has all the universe and everything that is within it happening every moment. The deep understanding is that you cannot control that, and you shouldn't try. You can understand where you are. You can accept the present moment. Know that it is the most precious moment, because it is the present moment. That there will be a moment which will be perhaps separation from this person, or there will be a moment where things are different. Doesn't matter. This particular moment, the most precious moment, is what you have. And then you have your next decision. You accept, and then you may act. If action is called for, act. Do it in being and in presence. But don't project what outcome you want, or that you don't like this and you do like that, or you're disappointed if this happens and happy if that happens. The next moment will be. You will be in the next moment. The next moment will bring the next moment, whatever it may be. All kinds of crazy things. Infinite bliss or terrible suffering. Who knows? The point is, though, is you accept that moment. You live in that moment. And you realize what Seneca said, which is it can always be worse. It can always be better. So don't spend any part of the present moment in either of those states thinking about what could be worse or better. Just be. And you will be joyful. Regardless of the situation. And people will look at you and say, how can you be happy? And you just look at them and smile. You can't explain it even. You just say we are, and you move on. Because you I think you don't have a choice to be. It's like you've already accepted that you don't tie your happiness to outcomes. And it's not easy to get there.
Well, in understanding that it's outside your realm of control, you make space for what is unfolding in front of you. And to be centered in that awareness and conscious of the unfolding way things have gone and the way things are going,
Mm.
you hold on in your heart to that stable point of your existence in that moment, which is love. You are an expression of love in that moment.
Mm.
And how do you want the other person to receive this love? Are you putting conditions on it? Or is it an unconditional love?
Mm. Yeah, that's very good. Exactly.
Unconditional love will walk with you through the fire. Yeah, the experience is not good, painful, in fact, dire, in fact. But unconditional love walks with you. And when you travel on that path, yeah, your heart's broken. Not just breaking. It's constantly being shattered. Okay? I have no other way to describe it. And you are outside the realm of comfort completely.
Mm.
So you sort of shrug and set those aside because acknowledging all that and moving on allows space for whatever grace is needed in the moment to help the one you love.
Mm.
And it is very difficult to do because your ego wants to take charge and tell you, well, I know a better way to do this, which is all BS. You have to get to the end of your ego. Just like if you continually have those thoughts, you haven't reached the end of you. When you have reached the end of you, it's silent. It's like, this is outside my realm.
Mm.
It's complete crickets. And that's when you know you've hit the end of you. But otherwise, you still have that niggling, well, you know, like, if you just listen to me, I could do it. It's like BS.
Well, although I would say, Margaret, the end of you could be, it's not the end of your presence or your being. It's the end of your ego self.
Yes.
Which wants to tell you how much better it could be if this happened, or how much it's this one's fault, or if only we'd done this and only we'd done that. That's the thing that you're coming to the end of.
Yes.
The thing that denies your happiness because it's tied to outcomes.
Well, it denies your state of joyfulness because it believes that it should tell you what you should be happy over.
Exactly.
Because it equates happiness with joy, and they are two different things.
And as you just said, the ego has no room for unconditional love. It's always conditions of, if you did this, then I would love you. If you didn't do that, I can't love you. Da 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 da.
Well, I had seen where some parents, you know, they see what's happening to their children, and they can't do anything. And so they feel useless. And they say, well, I'm going to go after this company who I think used a pesticide was the reason why my son got sick, kind of thing. You know, they feel that, oh, I could be useful that way. But in that moment, if they had only but stopped and looked into the eyes of their child, they would realize that their child is looking at them going, I wish you were here with me. I wish you were really here with me, because I'm just about to undergo a procedure that I'm very afraid of. But I'm going to do something. I'm going to let you chase after that because you'll feel better, and I'll just deal with this on my own. I can't tell you how many times I've seen this when we were in the cancer wards. At that point, as a parent, you have given over the responsibility for the moment solely in your child's hands, and he's taking care of you. Who's the parent in that moment? Who is truly the adult?
No, exactly. And to witness that and to see that the child is making allowances is painful. And why are they able to do that? It's because they are living in the moment.
Right.
They've reached the end of themselves, their ego self, perhaps because of this disease, or perhaps because they didn't have a hugely built-up ego to start with. They're young enough to have still be in a more innocent phase of their lives. But yet, as you said, they're saying, be with me. Be here. Be present. I know you can't fix me. I know you may be trying, but I know you can't fix me. You don't have that control to take this away from me, to take this cup from me.
Right.
But yet to be with me, which is what Christ said to his apostles, pray with me an hour in the garden. And they fell asleep. Well, or they just lost the focus. They weren't able to be with the sufferer. And you've suffered enough with me. I think we've reached the end of the show. So anyway, I'm so sorry. I'm Michael Lyons, and this has been the first show of 2023. It'll get silkier, I promise.
And I'm Margaret. And be in the moment with those that you truly love. Thank you for listening.